Calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and Agenda Setting meeting for March 3rd, 2022. It is approximately 7:05 p.m. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and afterwards, we're going to have a moment of silence. And this evening, I would like for us to dedicate this moment of silence to Christy Spicuzza, who was the victim of a horrible homicide February 10th. Christy was born and raised in Monroeville, mother of four, and actually worked at our library some years ago, and our thoughts and prayers are with her family. So please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Griesbach,
Here.
Mr. Hizzy,
Here.
Mr. Poach, Mr. Stevenson,
Here.
Mr. Wolfram,
Here.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Biondo,
Here.
Mr. Little,
Here.
Mr. Ratcher,
Here.
Ms. Rock,
Here.
Mr. Hugus,
Here.
Mr. Sedlak,
Here.
Mr. Weldon.
Here. Thank you. Good evening. We're going to start with our Citizens Night section of our meeting. Any resident can, this is your time to address council on any municipal item. There will also be an opportunity to discuss agenda items at the Tuesday meeting, but now would be your time to address council on any municipal item. We always ask for you to try to keep your comments to 5 minutes so we can keep the meeting moving forward. And so if there's anybody that is signed in, now would be your time to address council.
The list.
That'd be great, yeah.
As I rip it.
Thanks, Nicole.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. You to state your name for the record, please.
Hi, Nicole Henline, Monroeville resident and director of the Monroeville Public Library. Good evening. I promise I won't take more than 2 minutes of your time. I just want to thank you for your continued support. And thanks to that support, we are very happy to announce that we are open for full hours. We're open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. With the increased hours, watch our website and Facebook for updates for more in-person programming. I wanted to let you know about some of our upcoming programs and events. On March 12th, we have an all-ages celebration for Holy. There will be a children's program downstairs, an adult program upstairs in the gallery space, and then both groups will meet outside for the fun finale. And please mark your calendars for some of the library's upcoming fundraisers. In partnership with the Friends of the Library, we'll be holding a tea on June 12th. We have a book sale on July 11th, and Fun Fest will be returning on August 27th. You have in front of you a newsletter for March that shows you the programs that are coming up, and also attached to that is a coupon that explains a fundraiser for the Friends of the Library. So if you want to buy Sarah's chocolate for Easter or just because it's delicious chocolate, if you order it online and put that number in, 25% goes to the Friends of the Library, who help the library with programming and other materials. We're thrilled to announce a partnership with CareerLink, which will allow more community members to receive additional assistance in job searching, applications, and much more. Check our calendar for their weekly visits, which will start soon. And last but not least, we'd like to thank the Friends of the Library for helping to refurbish the gallery space, and Public Works, a huge thank you for their beautiful work in refurbishing the gallery space. It looks brand new. And this month, after for the first time in 2 years, this month we will have art back in the gallery space, and going forward we will have a new local artist each month. Stop in this month because it is Art in Our Schools month, and so there's some amazing talent by our own students. So please stop in and check it out. Thank you again for your support, and we hope to see you soon at the library.
Thanks, Nicole. Thank you. Kim Krivda.
Good evening. Kim Krivda from Jamison Lane. I just want to start off on a really positive note. I'd like to thank Councilman Adams for taking the time to come out and look at a situation that we had this week regarding the water issues we're having. He came 2 or 3 times and he brought Mr. Hugus and Mr. Wielden out, who I'd like to thank also for coming out. And we're trying to determine how the 2 storms that we had this week were significant. And water was filling up and running over the drain that DCI had previously cleaned out by the direction of the municipality when they contacted them. And apparently something happened in that process, and it did not follow through to the property owner the drain goes through her property, and it was coming up out of the ground. So at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I could hear this water. I got up with my camera, my phone, and a flashlight, and I have video, which I actually met with Mr. Wielden and gave him the video. And when Mr. Hugus was there, he mentioned that he was going to reach out to DCI. So I just wanted to, maybe he could send that video, because Mr. Wielden had downloaded it, and he had it just for the record. If he could possibly send that when he contacts DCI, so that they can see the water. It's coming down off the hill and off the other hills and up out of their drain. Maybe they would realize how much water damage. It was flooded, all over. So, and it was washing down between the properties. So I just wanted to thank Mr. Adams again for taking us, in seriously there, and coming out and speaking with the other neighbor. And that's it. If they could just attach that video to the email to DCI when they reach out. I know that there's limitations that the municipality can do because it's their property. However, if they reach out to them, maybe they'll understand how. I could send the video myself, but it'd probably be more effective coming from.
No, the municipality will definitely reach out, and they'll give them all the information.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. Garrett? Is it?
I'm actually here for the Aroma Joe's car wash.
Okay,
Apologize.
yep, no problem at all, no problem at all. You'll be up shortly. Georgiana Woodhull.
Do we need to sign in again on here?
No,
Nope,
that's okay.
you're good.
Yeah, I wanted to, at last month's meeting, I had asked about the zoning ordinance that was completed in 2015. As Mr. Little mentioned, that they were about to hire an agency to redo the zoning ordinance. And I just wanted to know why they are going through a complete update of the ordinance that was already completed in 2015. Like, why would you spend taxpayer money to update an ordinance that really doesn't need updated? There might have been one area, and I believe that was the gas and oil, the drilling, that was controversial and maybe needed additional attention.
Well, it was from 2015. It's still that's about 7 years ago.
And they
so.
say, and they say you should update it every 10 years. And since 2015, when I had inquired about the ordinance, like what is going on with the ordinance, why is this not going to the public and to council, it was being, it was told to me that by Mr. Hugus that it was being reviewed. Mr. Wielden was getting acquainted with our ordinance. So here we are 7 years later.
And hopefully on Tuesday, council will vote to move it forward, and we're going to get this done.
Okay, well, is there some reason, the gentleman who worked on was hired, Mr. Lee Mueller, was very professional, did an excellent job, and I'm just wondering, I see that there were 3 different companies on here. Is there some reason that you didn't reach out to somebody who was already very familiar with the municipality?
Well, I know you and I spoke before the meeting, but now afterward, there was a request for proposal, so.
From him?
Well, we had a request put out. I don't know if he was directly contacted or not, but he had the opportunity to submit a proposal.
Okay, because it really seems almost like a waste of money to have an outside firm come in here, because it is, my understanding that it's the job of the planning commission to update this ordinance. And not just this ordinance, not just the zoning ordinance, but the comprehensive plan as well. So why are we not using the planning commission again to update the
Mayor,
ordinance?
may I speak?
Yes, Mr. Little.
Yeah. Georgianne, Leo Mueller did a good job, no question about it, back in 11, 12, and
I can't-
13. And, can you hear me?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and his changes are incorporated into the zoning ordinance. And what we have decided to do among myself, Paul Wilden, Paul Hugus, and Mr. Ratcher is what this, it's not an update, it's a review by an outside company. We thought it would be a good idea to have an outside company cast, so to speak, an extra set of eyes on the zoning ordinance, as I mentioned last month, for different planning techniques, anything we were missing, and as you mentioned, things like oil and gas and things of that nature, different things like mixed-use development, anything that's new and trendy that could be put into the ordinance. It's not necessarily an update, it's a review.
It just seems to me that it's really a waste of taxpayer money, and it's not necessary. There's enough people, if you were going to engage the planning commission, and I can tell you that from being on the planning commission, that the members of the planning commission are a wealth of information. You've got engineers on the planning commission, you have people from different professions, and then you're going to have a committee, you're going to have people from residents who are also a wealth of knowledge. So I don't see where this firm, it's necessary to spend another almost $30,000 to do this, unfortunately. I mean,
Well, Georgianne, the planning commission will be engaged. They have to be engaged under the MPC. So they will be engaged. So they won't be left out of the process.
But not only engaged, I think according to the MPC, they should be the ones updating.
Well, that's your
Well,
comment.
and they have been with Mr. Mueller 12 years ago. They have been engaged, and they will be engaged again. Now, the review, the scope of this RFP is not to get into the weeds, so to speak, because that has already been done by Mr. Mueller and more so by Mr. Wilden. But this is just a review. It's not necessarily to get into the weeds, because that's all been done. If you were going to have an outside company review and start from scratch on a zoning ordinance like Mr. Mueller was doing, it would cost you well over $100,000.
Well, I know that prior to Mr. Mueller, Mr. Ratcher, Chelsea Dice, Scott Dilute, Dave Cooker from council were all on the modernization of the zoning ordinance committee. And I'm sure put in endless hours. I don't know why you can't, pick someone from council. We have our solicitor already on the payroll, and use what you have in order to get this done instead of spending another $27,000 plus of taxpayer money. Thank you.
Well, that's council's decision on Tuesday.
Is there anyone else that would like to address council? We're going to close the Citizens Night portion and start up our agenda-setting meeting. Council, we're moving over to the minutes. For Tuesday, you'll be considering the Citizens Night meeting of February 3rd, 2022, and the council agenda-setting meeting of February 3rd, 2022. Any questions or comments at this time? Council?
I thought the only one up there was the Citizens Night, but I did not look this afternoon.
The other one will be, you'll have it before Tuesday, yes.
That's true.
Okay,
Yep.
I will get the agenda-setting ones to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Probably, and you'll have them.
So that's to be considered on Tuesday. Council, your tax collections, any questions? The list of bills. Mr. Hizzy, any questions this evening?
None.
Mr. Stevenson?
No.
Mr. Wolfram?
No, sir.
Mr. Adams?
None.
Mr. Williams?
None.
Mr. Biondo?
None.
Very good. Budget transfers, questions, or comments, council? Seeing none. Payroll report, any questions or comments? Very good. Moving over to our consent agenda, we have new business. In your packet, it's in the orange section of 21-8-ST Manila Group LLC Self-Storage. The applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct a self-storage facility consisting of 6 buildings with a total of 56,000 square feet of storage space and associated site amenities. The property is located at the intersection of Fry Road and Thompson Run Road and is known as tax parcel ID 637J139 in the M2 Industrial Zoning District. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Is the applicant here this evening? Mr. Wilden, do you want to shed some light on this for us, please?
I expected the applicant to be here tonight. I'm not sure what happened. I don't have a plan with me. I have one upstairs. I can go get it if you want to move this to later in the agenda. I can.
Yeah, we can do that.
I can point it out on the plan.
Yeah, we'll come back to this, just so council has an idea of what's going on there.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Council, next item, 22-1-ST GD Development LLC, Aroma Joe's. Applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct a 791 square foot drive-through coffee shop and associated site amenities. The property is located at 2524 Mosside Boulevard and known as tax parcel ID 857R046 in the C2 Business Commercial Zoning District. The Planning Commission recommends approval. In the same item, we also have 22-1-C GD Development LLC, Aroma Joe's, that the applicant is requesting conditional use approval to construct the 791 square foot drive-through coffee shop and associated site amenities. The property is located at 2524 Mosside Boulevard and known as tax parcel ID 857R046, just what I read, in C2. However, this is a public hearing item, so the conditional use approval is a public hearing item. The applicant is here. And if there's anyone from the public that may want to add testimony to this public hearing item, I will swear you in, as well as our guest this evening, Garrett, correct?
Yes,
I'm sorry, your last name?
Garrett Varner.
Varner, okay. Welcome. So, Garrett, if you don't mind, I'm going to swear you in here for this public hearing part of the process, and then what we'll talk about the whole thing, basically.
Okay.
It is a conditional use for the one part, the rest is the other part. We'll just talk about it all at once.
Okay, sounds good.
If you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I swear.
Thank you. Very good. Well, if you could just state your name again for the record.
Good evening, my name is Garrett Varner. I'm with Morris Knowles and Associates, and we are the civil engineers for this project representing GD Development LLC. We are looking to redevelop an existing car wash across from the Dollar General on Mosside Boulevard into a drive-through Aroma Joe's coffee shop. The property is currently zoned C2 business, and while the use is permitted, the drive-through is a conditional use. Access to the property, we plan to have the same 2 access points on the property, one right in and one right out entrance. We will also have the sidewalks extend across the frontage as well. We have submitted to PennDOT for all the work within the right-of-way, and it is currently under review. The limits of disturbance for this site is under ½ an acre, and we've already received approval from Allegheny County Conservation District. As far as the layout, the customers will enter the site through the southern entrance. They will then continue around the building through the drive-through to the order window and then the pay window. There's also 2 parking stalls in the back for employees, and there is another option. When the customers enter the site, they can pull into a parking stall and get out of their vehicle and walk up to the walk-up window to order. There's also a patio area out front for customers to sit and enjoy their coffee, and also a screened area in the back that will provide extra storage and also the entrance and exit for the employees to enter the building. As far as utilities go, for the water, we're connecting to the existing valve near the entrance of the site. For the sewer, we're going to connect to the existing lateral and cleanout near the front of the site, and we've already been in contact with the municipal authority, and we do not believe that we need a sewage planning facilities module, which the authority has also agreed upon, and the average daily flow expected for the site is to be less than 400 gallons per day. For the stormwater, we are utilizing the 2 existing inlets that are already installed. We are decreasing impervious area by 30%. However, to meet the 60% release rate, we had to design a enlarged pipe with an outlet control structure to hold back the flows. We've also added water quality inserts to the proposed inlets to meet the municipal water quality standards. As landscaping, the existing buffer in the rear of the property will remain, and we've also added another row of deciduous trees in front of it. And as requested from the municipality, we've also added a few more trees and shrubs along Mosside Boulevard to add some curb appeal. And we meet the landscaping requirement of 1 tree per 5 parking spaces and 5% of the parking area that should be landscaped. As far as the conditional use requirements, number 1, a minimum of 140 feet stacking lane is required. Our site provides over 140 feet of stacking. Item number 2, no pedestrian crossing of the stacking lane shall be permitted. We provided an ADA compliant access ramp, which is beyond the 140-foot stacking lane. Item number 3, a minimum of 80 feet of the stacking lane must be provided between the center of the order station and the center of the serving window. Due to the small nature of our site and the side yard setbacks, and to meet the 140-foot stacking lane requirement and the no pedestrian crossing requirement, the pickup and order window are on the same side of the building. Item number 4, the minimum stacking lane width shall be 10 feet. We provided 13-foot width stacking lane. Item number 5, a maximum of 3 stacking lanes are permitted. Our site only has 1 stacking lane. Item number 6, a 10-foot wide bypass lane is required. We have provided a 10-foot wide bypass lane. Item number 7, in order to permit vehicles to exit the stacking lane prior to loading, there shall be no impediment of vehicles escaping the stacking lane. Our site has no curbing or any sort of blockade that exists that would prohibit anybody from exiting the stacking lane at any point of the ordering. Item number 8, all the stacking lanes shall not inhibit the pedestrian crossing, traffic aisles, parking spaces, roadways, and the stacking lane is located on the inside of the site as to not prohibit any sort of activities on the outside of the site, such as parking or the bypass lane. Item number 9, provide at least a 20-foot by 10-foot width lane after the serving window. We provided the 10-foot by 20-foot order confirmation area after the pickup window so the patrons can make sure that their order is correct. And lastly, number 10, a circulation plan through the drive-through lane must be provided. On our site plan here, we have provided the circulation plan for vehicle through the pay lane and drive-through. With that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, thank you, Mr. Varner. Jared, if you could put the camera on the table there, then we can get a view of it on the screen. Garrett, if you could just orient us on the map there, please.
Okay. So Mosside Boulevard's over here.
Okay, thank you.
The patrons will enter the site through here with a right-in only. The drive-through lane is on the inside track here, and then the patrons will exit right only back on the Mosside Boulevard. The employee parking is in the rear of the site, and all the patron parking is at the south side of the site. And here is the walk-up window with the ADA compliant ramp, and then the 10-foot by 20-foot order confirmation area.
Council, any questions? Mr. Williams?
How wide is the frontage there?
The frontage of the property,
Yeah, on 48? How many feet is that?
I'm not quite sure. It says,
I'm just looking, that property seems a lot bigger on this paper than I
it is in
remember
reality,
looking
yeah.
at it.
it is very
It's over
narrow.
there.
It is very narrow.
So I'd just like to know what the footage is on the frontage here. Does either one of our engineers know?
My guess is it's written on there on the property line.
I'm trying to find it, but I think our.
I mean, they'd be utilizing the entire existing parcel.
Just seems like it's a lot wider than.
I'm gonna guess under 100 foot.
It's hard to see because we have all this on top of it. 65. That's about 494 feet.
One lot, 65 feet.
I'm not even sure it might be that much.
It's pretty skinny.
Yeah, I know, I delivered down there
That
so much.
picture looks like it's about 8 acres.
Yeah,
Maybe 120 feet.
Oh.
really?
The proposed building is much smaller than
That's
the
close.
existing car wash building. The existing car wash building takes up, majority of the site.
And there was one that was recently built on 286 in Plum.
Yes.
Is that about the same size of the building,
Roughly, yes.
approximately? Yeah, so and this is just a drive-through, walk-up only. There's no public restrooms.
Correct.
Okay.
No indoor service? I
No.
noticed you said you have an outside area.
There is a patio in front of the building, right in front of the walk-up window, but there is no indoor service.
And also a right turn exit only?
Yes.
Boy, that's gonna make a few people mad. And I understand the traffic here will be, somewhat, at times,
Yes.
heavy. So,
Council, any other
What
questions?
kind of facade is going to be on the building? I'm looking at the rendering of the building. What kind of facade is going to be on the building?
We believe
I'm
it
just
is
curious.
a stone brick at the bottom, and then there's also a.
You have an image there?
Yes, I do.
Looks like a nice building.
Yeah, so brick with some sort of siding. The building plans have not been finalized yet, so I don't know if they're set on colors yet.
What kind of menu you going to have?
Coffee.
I mean, is it going to be more than coffee? Is it going to be sandwiches or?
I think there is some food items. I believe actually on the building it says breakfast, pretzels, snacks, and then there's other things other than coffee as well as tea. I think they have like some smoothies and stuff as well.
Okay.
You said you're gonna make it right in and right out, correct?
Correct.
How, is that just by signage or cement barriers you come in, knowing the 48 corridor down there is a bad corridor, that's,
As of right now, we just have signage proposed.
it's gonna be interesting how many people turn left.
Mr. Ratcher, you had a question?
I want to ask Mr. Wilden a question. Paul, I just want to know if you agree with the applicant's opinion that all of the conditions in the conditional use requirements have been met.
They have been for the drive-through, correct?
Okay, thanks.
Council, any other questions? Very good. Council will consider this on Tuesday. So we're going to close is there anyone else from the public that would like to add testimony at this point? Seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. And move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Varner. Council, moving over to your item number 4, Clover Communities Monroeville LLC, 22-1-SUB. Applicant is requesting preliminary and final subdivision approval to subdivide tax parcel 741-R-333, which is currently 57.982 acres, it's not that big, into 2 parcels. One parcel is 10.502 acres, and the second parcel is 47.421 acres. The property is located at 3926 Logan's Ferry Road in the R4 multifamily zoning district and the R2 one-family residential zoning district. The Planning Commission recommends approval. Welcome.
Good
Jack.
evening.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Rob Jack with Clover Communities, Monroeville. I was here last month with the land development plan, and back this month with the proposed subdivision. As noted, we're going to split the 58 acres into a 10.5 acre parcel, which is zoned R4, and then the balance, 47.4 acres, is zoned R2. We've received some comments from the township engineer and from the county, just some minor housekeeping cleanup. We'll make those comments, we'll agree to those comments, but otherwise, are there any questions? I think it's fairly straightforward.
Council, any questions?
Is the right-of-way, so there's this question about the right-of-way from People's Gas, that's kind of still out there. Is this affected at all, I guess?
It does not affect that at all. I did have a conversation with them this week. They're going over their records, trying to determine if they have any express or specific access rights to that driveway. I did let them know, worst case, they can come through our parking lot, we'll do an agreement like that. They were fine with that, so.
So what they have to access is on the 10.5
Yes.
acre portion?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about 3/4 of the way back on the, up against the Willow Crest lots, the Willow Hedge.
And no effect on the airport road then either, I would
Right.
assume.
Yeah.
And Mr. Jack, so we have that image up on the screen now. If you could just point out, outline the properties for us.
Okay, so the 10.5 acres, it has kind of a pink-red color. Starts at Logan's Ferry, goes along the Willow Hedge lots, and then up towards Maple Crest and back around to Logan's Ferry. And then the 47.4 acres is the balance of the site just shown in white here.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Council, any other questions?
What is the plan for the 47 acres?
So we'll sell that eventually. We don't have it for sale. It's not on the market at the present. We don't have any intent to develop it, but we'll.
What would be the access point to?
So there are a couple other roads in the back, Buttercup Drive and Quince Road from the rear of the site provide frontage for that.
How much of the 47 acres is developable?
I would say less than
topography
20.
there, yeah.
Yeah, I would say it's less than 20. There's a lot of hillside, a lot of steep slopes kind of
Right.
around the perimeter.
Right.
So really, it's mainly the former runway is what's developable.
Okay.
So none of the frontage is on the Maple Crest, I guess Armor Drive or any of the Maple Crest development? There's no frontage there on the
No,
R2
that backs
section?
up to other lots in Maple Crest, right?
Very good. Council, any other questions? Any concerns from staff? They're saying no, so very good. We'll consider this on Tuesday.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Jack.
Thank you.
Council, we have one motion this evening. It's a motion to award the zoning ordinance review request for proposal, the RFP agreement to Strategic Solutions LLC with Gateway Engineers Incorporated for a total project sum of $27,584. You received a packet for your review, and they also were the lowest bidder. Any questions or comments? Mr. Williams?
Is Gateway Engineers farming this out, or are they doing the work?
Yeah, Strategic Solutions works through Gateway Engineers, Bob.
Any other questions, council?
I mean, I'll piggyback off something Georgiana asked. I mean, so I think you alluded to, Mayor, we're 7 years from the 2015 zoning ordinance. I mean, would this count towards our, if the comprehensive plan is passed, I mean, does the clock start over? Do we have another 10 years before we have to have another zoning ordinance passed, or?
I think that'd be the intent. You know,
Right.
this is get it up to date as of now, the times of now. You know, the changes in Monroeville, the changes in other suburban areas, and I think that's what the importance of going through an outside firm would be.
Right.
But I would think they'd be starting now.
Right, okay.
Council, any other questions or comments? We'll consider this on Tuesday. Resolutions for this evening, we have 4. First item is a resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Memorial Day Parade. Mr. Little, you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, council has in their packet the application from the Veterans of Foreign War, and I believe it's for $6,000 from the Municipality of Monroeville. They have other funding sources of $2,000. We've upped that through the years, about from $5,000 to $6,000. That's in your packet.
Tim, sorry, that's not the people, it's American Legion, Post 820 in Monroeville.
Okay, I'm sorry, American Legion, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, and the request is $6,000 with other funding sources. And that's for the Memorial Day Parade. Hopefully, we're
Right.
looking to have that again after not having it for the past couple of years.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments, council? Next item, resolution authorizing the distribution of grant funds for the Monroeville Independence festivities. Mr. Little?
And this is for the July 4th parade. And this comes out of our coffers, $12,500 they're requesting. The cost went up last year for the fireworks, and it's the same cost this year as it has been the last 2 years.
And that's $12,000 from the Municipality of Monroeville, and then also the Monroeville Convention Visitors Bureau, Visit Monroeville. They also contribute $12,500 towards the parade and the fireworks. And in the past 2 years, not having the parade, we've actually put that money into the fireworks show. So it was a bigger show the past couple years. I'm sure they'll still find a way to do a really nice show for the 4th, but we're hoping to have the parade as well. Council, any questions? Seeing none, next item. Number 3, a resolution approving a waiver releasing the applicant, Manila Group LLC, John J. and Susan Scaretti, from installing sidewalks as required by ordinance number 1016 along Thompson Run Road and Fry Road frontages. And actually, this is back to that item that we skipped over. So, you know what, council, let's go back to our new business. Mr. Wheeldon, if you don't mind. Council, we're back to 21-8-ST, Manila Group LLC self-storage. And Paul, if you don't mind, just giving a quick overview of the project. So Jared, if you get a camera on, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so this is it's a barren site down at the intersection of Fry Road and Thompson Run Road. Everybody drives past it, doesn't even recognize it. It's in an industrial area. It's just flat and hasn't been used for anything. The owner wants to put in self-storage units. These are going to be not climate-controlled units, just typical metal buildings with garage doors on either side. The larger building is going to be a 3-story building that is climate-controlled. They originally had their access point off of Thompson Run. We convinced them to move it over to Fry Road. It gives them more stacking distance and makes it easier for emergency vehicles to get in and drive around the property. The 3-story building will be sprinklered. It looks like it's in the floodplain, but it is actually higher than the floodplain. So we looked at that. That was one of our first concerns we had. So it is out of the floodplain. And it's basically a very simple site plan. You know, it's just storage units. And this is a color rendering of what they hope the site will look like. So if anybody has any questions, I'll give it a shot.
Where are the sidewalks on the site plan? Proposed sidewalks?
The
that they wanna
sidewalks are
make?
required along all the frontages, so their property, it goes way down to here. So they are required to put in sidewalks along all of Thompson Run Road and this section of Fry Road. Obviously, there's nothing else down there. There is some topography issues at this end of the site. To put sidewalks in, it would be very difficult. The engineer put together a really nice exhibit and I think this may have been sent to the council members. I only have this 11 by 17 of it, but it illustrates the problems that they face with the site. I don't know if pictures are really hard to see, but there's a lot of slope along Thompson Run Road. The berm is very narrow, so they would have to build that up to put the sidewalk in, and it really wouldn't connect to anything, and I don't know that it ever would. So as far as waivers go, this is probably a good candidate for a waiver. I calculated it out the same way that I did for the Hindu temple, $8 a square foot, and it came out to just under $50,000. If they didn't have to, that's just for the concrete. That's not if they had to deal with any of the topography issues or anything. So I don't know if that factors into the waiver or paying into the fee in lieu.
Well, I think this is, as we've talked about the past couple months with different projects, I mean, this is kind of falls into, I mean, obviously we all know there's some challenges there as far as putting sidewalks. You even mentioned it, they really go nowhere. The reason why we want to have new development put in sidewalks, the hope is long-term, we build sidewalks throughout the community, but we have a waiver in place and a sidewalk event in place in these situations where we say, you know what, there's nothing else that's going to be developed down there. It's extremely challenging to put sidewalks there, but let's maybe take that money that developer would have to put into that project and put it somewhere else where sidewalks make more sense, maybe connecting our parks and things of that nature. So we've been talking about this for the past couple months here with council, so I would encourage council that we discuss that on Tuesday as far as enacting that ordinance like we talked about, doing. But,
If there's gonna be no connection to anything else, then, yeah, I concur with that 100%.
yeah, I mean, so we will consider that on Tuesday, but that would be separate than the actual project and development itself.
Right.
So at this point, does anybody have any questions just regarding about what Mr. Wheeldon went over regarding the actual, project?
Yeah, hey, Paul, I'm very familiar with the site. It used to be an old dump site down there. They gonna pillar the buildings, the slabs, I guess it'll be all slab construction?
Not that I know of. Maybe for the three-story building. They did have some geotech done down there, but I wasn't too concerned about it, just because, it's not living space, it's just storage space. They're only 10-foot tall steel buildings on slabs. I'm not
yes.
too concerned about settling.
All right.
Very good. Any other questions, council? We'll consider this on Tuesday. Thanks a lot, Paul, for filling in for them. Council, moving back over to our motions. Our fourth motion is a resolution authorizing the display of various event banners at the corner of intersection of State Routes 22 and 48 within the right-of-way of property belonging to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. This is something that we do periodically, and that's for that corner. We basically have to do a resolution and get PennDOT on board with it, and so people can advertise there. And these are for, public events, nonprofits, just community events. Any questions?
Can we hold anybody out putting a banner up that would be obscene or not healthy for the community? I know we talked about that when we was talking about billboards, that, can we control that?
I think there are some PennDOT regulations relative to that speak to those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, council? Very good. Moving over to our ordinances. Mr. Ratcher.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, amending ordinance number 2689 to revise the pollution control and flood reduction credit manual rules and regulations. This is a matter that's been on the table. It's part of a potential settlement with CBL, that's the mall property. Unless I hear from them between now and Tuesday, I'll probably recommend that you keep it on the table for another month. I have talked with their attorney, and he was waiting to hear back from their engineers and their people. So I don't think they're going to get back to me in time, but if they do, we'll take that up on Tuesday.
Very good. Next item.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, amending ordinance number 2754 the 2022 fee schedule to amend the timber harvesting permit fees to $200 per parcel. And this was to correct an omission when the 2022 fee schedule was adopted. It was the intention of the municipality to include this amount, $200 per parcel, and it was just an oversight, so it's just a cleanup matter.
Next item.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the proper officials to enter into an agreement granting a 25 feet wide easement to Sunoco Pipeline LP to install underground cathodic protection equipment to maintain and protect an existing underground pipeline in Alpine Park. And I believe council saw some information on this last month relative to how the cathodic system works and the fact that there is an existing underground pipe there.
Right. Council, any questions?
Can we go back to number one, Bob? That, you mentioned that's the mall.
Yes.
Do we still have issues with the school?
Yeah, that's a separate,
That's
that's
separate,
separate, yeah.
And that's still
Yeah, and that's
unresolved?
most likely gonna wind up in court. One of the things that's been happening with these challenges, because MS4 is so new, there are some cases of other municipalities that are in the appellate courts right now. And in all probability, a lot of these questions are gonna be answered that are in the subsequent lawsuits by what decisions the appellate courts make over the next year. So, there's a very important one that's actually up for argument here next month, and so we'll see what comes out of that and ultimately whether or not we can resolve them both.
That's what other municipalities, though, and.
Yeah, but it'll set precedent then that'll be
Yeah.
applicable to some of the same disputes that we have.
Okay, and you're in contact with them, and they'll relay information and all
yes.
that? Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, council, about the ordinances? Thank you, Mr. Ratcher. Do you have any comments this evening?
No comments, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Little, any comments this evening?
Yeah, a few housekeeping items. As I mentioned last month, Mr. Weldon and I had met with Rebecca Vargo, manager for Wilkins, and Alex Graziani, the manager for Churchill Borough, with whom we have a joint comprehensive plan, and we are seeking comprehensive plan committee volunteers. We're tentatively setting a date in late April at some time to get the committee back together. We haven't met for 2 years, mostly due to the pandemic. It's a 5-year comprehensive plan that was passed in 2018, and we're not only looking for members from council, but from committees and even also from the residents. So that's just an FYI. Item 2, as we normally do, about 2 or 3 times a year, we have a household hazardous waste and electronic collection event at our Public Works building, and that will be on April the 16th, and registration is encouraged, and that is on our website. Item 3, once again, we have been named as a banner community by the Allegheny County League of Municipalities for commitment to professional development, prudent fiscal management, transparency, accountability, and proactive communication to engage community stakeholders. There will be a luncheon up at the Allegheny League of Municipalities Conference at Seven Springs to honor those municipalities once again in the banner community. And number 4, the Monroeville Foundation has set dates for its 4 events this coming year. Community Day will be July 30th at the Community Park West, as we had 2 years ago. We didn't have it last year because of the pandemic. The Monroeville Jazz Festival, September the 3rd. The golf outing, which will be September the 12th at Meadowwink, and a 5K pumpkin race, which we had its inaugural run last year. This year will be on October the 23rd. Mr. Ernie Groover will be addressing council at this Tuesday's council meeting on those events about requesting use of the park for that. And also, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Mark Kandrak, Sergeant Kandrak, for his retirement from the police department, and also Joanne Morris for her retirement from the Park and Recreation Department. And also condolence to Pat Barley, who used to work for us in accounts payable, for the passing of her husband, Jack. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Mr. Hugus, you have some items this evening. I do.
He's willing coming to the podium.
For once.
Oh, man.
Items and handouts.
Oh, okay.
Good evening.
Welcome, Mr. Hugus. So we have a few items here for you to discuss. I mean, everyone is aware of the bridge failure that happened down in the Squirrel Hill, Point Breeze area. And certainly we want to stay on top of this from our standards, from this municipality and the bridges that we have. So we've asked for you to give a little bridge report in our community. Thank you.
Make it around here, Paul. Thank you, sir.
All right, so to start with the bridges, so a bridge is a span of 20 feet or greater is required to be inspected every 2 years, and that's across the Commonwealth. Nobody has anything different with that. Everybody has to do it. Bridge inspections are for the municipality-owned bridges are performed by third-party consulting engineer firms under the contract with PennDOT, who report back to PennDOT and share the findings with us that we get every 2 years when the bridges are done. So in totality, the municipality owns and maintains 6 bridges within the municipality. There are 2 bridges, one on Neighbors Creek and one on Cabot Road, that are owned and maintained by the county, even though they're on municipal roads. It's sort of a different dynamic. The county has already sent us notification that both of those bridges would be replaced in 2023. The term that you see a lot in the papers and TV is what they define as a poor condition. And there's many elements that come up with that poor condition. It's a analysis of the bridge deck, the superstructure, and the substructure. And if any of those receive ratings of 4 or lower out of a rate of 1 to 9, they determine it as poor conditions. The 3 bridges that the municipality own and maintain is in the packet that I gave you. Move my stuff around. Jared, can you zoom in on this? Okay, so I'm going to show you the 3 bridges that we currently have that are in good condition. This is the bridge on Old Abers Creek Road behind the new CVS. Recently inspected, no pad ratings on that specific bridge. The second bridge that is in good condition is actually it's South Macaulay Road. It's off of Thompson Run Road. It actually facilitates the SV Temple in Penn Hills. And that bridge is okay. Third bridge is what is known as on Brookside Drive, but it's actually called Old William Penn Highway Number 1. And this is the Brookside Drive by Jaden's, behind Jaden's, that leads to what we would know as the trailer park. Those 3 bridges are all in good condition. Now, the ones in your packet that I gave you are the bridges that are not. Old William Penn Highway Number 3, which carries Old William Penn over Thompson Run, that goes into Penn Hills. So this would be Old William Penn Highway, go underneath the Union Railroad trestle, cross over Thompson Run, and there's a small bridge that links Monroeville to Penn Hills. The stream that goes underneath the bridge is the delineation line between the 2 municipalities. We jointly own that bridge with Penn Hills. Now, I know, Mayor, you recently attended a meeting with PennDOT
Yes,
and
so we
and
had,
discussed this specific bridge?
we did, yeah. So we met with PennDOT, the Allegheny County Executive, his staff, and also representatives from Penn Hills. So there's discussions already in the works of looking at that bridge to get it repaired. There's some possible funding sources to help with that.
Okay.
What's the condition of that bridge, do you know?
They rated it as poor,
Poor.
yes.
Okay.
These are the three bridges they rate as a poor rating.
Out of how many ratings? I mean, like, is it 1, 2, 3, poor, excellent, you know?
0 to 9 is how you rate them. Anything below 4 would be considered poor.
Okay.
Typically, and we've had this, the first thing that you get with a bridge inspection, you'll get an immediate report from the bridge engineer to reduce the weight limits of the bridge. That's the first thing that automatically happens. You have to reduce the weight limits, and then they'll give you deficiencies on the bridge that have to be repaired in order to alleviate that.
And this one currently has no weight limit postings on it?
No.
Is that one? Okay.
Paul, if that bridge would collapse, how far would it drop?
I'd say about 6
8 feet.
8 feet?
Yeah.
10
Yeah, so it just goes into the stream. The second bridge is what we refer to as Old William Penn Highway number 2, which is actually on Brookside Drive. This is the one directly behind Grace Life Church. That bridge is closed. You could see in this picture below. So what happened is that we were notified, we had to go close the bridge. We had to put the concrete barriers up, the proper bridge closed signs. That bridge is closed. It has been in the capital improvements budget the last probably 5 cycles. It's $1 million repair to replace it. So it's
How long
closed.
has it been closed?
3 years.
And that was mostly light traffic, probably?
Yes. The residents of the trailer court, they
Right,
have
yeah.
some, because there's actually trailers on both sides of the bridge.
Right.
So it's difficult for them to get to sometimes. And the last one that's in poor condition that the municipality owns is actually referred to as the Spring Hill Bridge. The Spring Hill Bridge was the access point from Route 130 to Walboro. Now, the interesting part about the Spring Hill Bridge is there's an asphalt approach, there's a bridge span, then there's on the other end, on the wall end, there's another asphalt approach. Walboro owns part, Norfolk Southern owns the middle, the municipality owns the other side. So the part that we own is all asphalt. We own none of the bridge span. Norfolk Southern does. But we were required to post the bridge as being closed because that's our side of the bridge. So as you can see in the picture below, there's actually a guide rail across with chain link fence and the bridge closed sign.
So if this is something that would ever be repaired, our responsibility would only be that asphalt portion?
That's correct. And this is actually something that has gone through the PUC because Norfolk Southern owns the bridge span and they have no intentions of repairing it.
How long has that one been closed, Paul?
That's been a while.
I'd say 15 years.
15.
Yeah.
Longer than that, hasn't it been?
It's,
Is there any reason why Southern, the railroad can't be made to tear the thing down before it collapses?
well, the PUC can't make them. I don't know who can.
Okay.
Well, I think, Paul, if the bridge starts falling down on their tracks, I think they may want to repair it.
There you go, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's probably what it'll
Yeah.
take, actually.
Probably.
Take it down, yeah.
Any questions about bridges?
No, great job,
Thank you.
Mr. Hugus, thank you.
All right.
One question on is there federal funding? Did we get through the federal government for bridge projects, or?
Well, I guess that'll be determined here pretty quickly.
Well, I know there was some money allocated towards Monroeville already. I don't know if there's $3 million. Tim, could you answer that question?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're getting 2.7 million and some change, and In total, we received the first tranche of 1.4 million in May, and we'll receive the second again in this May. $800,000 of the first tranche has been used for the ladder truck we purchased. And $1.4 million is in it's in a separate fund that we put into. And that's up to council how, when we start drilling down on the capital improvement program, how council wants to allocate that money.
Okay, thanks.
Are we good with bridges?
Counsel?
Yes.
All right. The next thing that I have handed out here is the road resurfacing report. I generate this every couple of years. I wanted to do it this year because obviously there's 4 new elected officials, and I actually don't think that I ever gave it to Bob or to Steve either. So I'm going to obviously give this, you can read it tonight, and it'll put you to sleep. But I'm going to go through a couple pages here just to hit some highlights, so you can understand how we look at the roadway system, how we rate it, what we do, how we do it, when we do it. Okay? So I'm going to leap through this pretty quickly. So on the first page, there's about 193 miles of roadways within the municipality of Monroeville. Of those 193 miles, some is owned by the municipality, some is owned by PennDOT, Allegheny County, and private roads. Of those 193, 110 miles of those roads are Monroeville's. In addition to the 110 miles, we also have 34 parking lots. Most of those parking lots are obviously this facility, the community parks, all the parks, the fire training center, library, senior center. Those are all parking lots that we own and maintain. If you convert those 34 parking lots into road miles, it's equivalent to about 6.3 miles. So adding that all together, you're going to have about 116.3 miles of roadways. In today's cost, that asset, Josie will be interested, that asset is about $230 million to the municipality. When we assess our roadway system, we use a program that was developed by the University of Wisconsin. It's called PACER, and that stands for Pavement Surface Evaluation and Rating. When we use that program, you look at surface defects, surface deformation, cracks, patches, and potholes. Based on the 2020 analysis, because we did not do the full analysis in 2021, we did it in 2020. So based on 2020's analysis, our PACER rating for the average is 6.22, which is good, which means our system is in good health. It's better than what it used to be. If you look at page 3, Exhibit 1, you'll see the rating system, 1 being failed to 10 being excellent. And we'll progress through there. That's an important numbering system that we used. On page 4, Exhibit 2, you'll look at the PACER rating. Again, it goes 1 failed to 10 excellent, and you'll see the number of segments. So when we look at roads, we look at what is we determine as segments. And the easiest way to explain that is that if you look at Garden City Drive, we don't look at Garden City Drive as a whole. You look at it from intersection to intersection. That intersection is determined as a segment. And then we compile the segments because, like College Park Drive is a very lengthy road, Olean Penn's a very lengthy road. So we have to look at segments versus an entire roadway. Although when we do the analysis, we try to pull it all back together. But with the long roads, it's tough. So if you
how's those segments determined? Is it stop sign, road to road, or something?
intersection to intersection.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you look at the PACER rating, we have 2 failed segments of roads, which when we look at failed segments, it means there's total reconstruction. So we do have 2 segments. Those 2 segments is 1 road, and it's Old Aberscrook Road behind the CVS. We just looked at the bridge. That segment of road is just, it's failed. All the way up through the 10, which we have 41 segments. If you look at Exhibit 3, it shows the same thing, but in a bar graph version of that. Flipping to page 5, and this is another important exhibit number 4. It lists all the boards and the roadway miles per board. And what you need to look at is that there's a lot more miles in certain boards than there are in other wards. Ward 1 has 21.8 miles of roads. Ward 6 has 11.12. And why that becomes important is when we develop the program, and I start getting phone calls because so-and-so's getting more money paved in their ward than I am. Well, not everybody has the same amount of roadway miles. If you flip to page 6, you'll see the historical trends in the pavement condition. We started using this program in 2004. So if you look from 2004 to 2020, you'll look at the PACER rating and then the PACER conditions. You can see we go from good, we drop the fair, go back to good, drop the fair. That's a direct relation to the amount of money that you're putting into your system. On page 7, factors affecting pavement condition. Obviously, the funding is number 1. The pavement construction, new paved roads like Maple Crest. How we construct those roads are very different from how they were constructed in the 50s and 60s. So that's a big consideration when we look at the roads. The modern asphalt material. We have to use super pave because that's what PennDOT tells us. There's nothing super about super pave. If we could go back and use the old, what we call the ID mixes, they're a better pavement product, but you can't go to the asphalt plant and get something other than super pave. Winter weather is another consideration. You know, we really started looking at roads kind of October-ish before the winter hits, but, you know, this winter, although we didn't get as much snow, February has been pretty brutal. The worst thing that could happen to us is when we get those half-inch, 1-inch rains, and the next day, it's 15 degrees. It's the worst thing that happens to your roads, and we've had it happen 5 times in February. So unfortunately, that's sort of what, we have to wait for winter to get over here to really look at the roads, because something that looked good in October does not look so good right now.
Hey, Paul, does it help to seal coat our new roads?
We do seal coat our roads.
To seal coat the new
Yes.
pavement?
Yes, and we'll get to that. If you flip to page 8, you'll look at the funding. You can see the funding in the bar chart from 2004 to 2020. You can see how it varies. Unfortunately, in the late 90s, we went through we had a year we did no paving. And that really set us back without doing paving in 1 year. And you can see we're still trying to catch up. We originally did this report in 2018. We were 50 miles behind schedule with our paving because of what we didn't do in the prior years. Going back to it's a huge asset to the municipality. Based on the municipality's observed average overlay lifespan of 15 years, so what that means is when we calculate roads, we expect them to last 15 years. We know that Olean Penn's not going to last 15 years, but Donna Court, which is a small cul-de-sac, is going to. So we try to calculate that everything's going to last 15 years. In today's construction costs, the municipality should be performing $1.65 million in paving each year in order for us to keep pace, to keep our roadway system what it is now. If we could flip to page 11, we'll cut through some of this a little bit. Let's go back to our PACER ratings. We typically mill and pave if a road has a PACER rating of 4 or less. The fog seals that Bob was just talking about, we try to do that within 2 years of paving a road. What we find is that it extends the lifespan about 2 to 3 years by fog sealing a new road. And the reason that is, it goes back to the super pave. If you pave a road, you go out the next day and it rains, the water's gone. Because it actually is leaching into the road, and you can't do that. That's detrimental to it. So when we fog seal it, it's just like doing your driveway. When you get your driveway paved, you seal it. It's the same thing we're trying to do with the roads. So typically, roads, there are PACER ratings of 8 to 10, which are newly paved roads. We fog seal them within the first 2 years of it. We do a lot of crack sealing. Usually the PACER rating is 6 to 8 because that's when you're starting to get your cracks in your roads, some reflection cracks. So we do a lot of crack sealing. And then the seal coating is what we've been doing with PACER ratings of 5 or 6. We do a seal coat with a flush coat over top of it. It was kind of controversial a few years ago, but we use it a whole lot now. And it actually becomes a pretty good product. We do a seal coat with a flush coat over top of it, and it extends the road's life by 7 years. If you flip to page 13, Exhibit 10, you could see with the fog seal, what that adds to your pavement lifespan, the crack sealing, the seal coat with a flush coat, which is what we predominantly do. We always put a seal coat over top because it actually locks the chips in so nobody's getting them splashed on their car, drug in their driveway. You know, it's a better methodology. And then the 3-inch mill and overlay. Now, to the right of that, you could see the cost of that is. So to do a 3-inch mill and overlay, it's about $213,000 a mile. Where your seal coat with a flush coat is $52,000 per mile. It's a fourth of the cost and extends your roadway. We can't afford to mill and pave every road anymore. We just can't do it. So the answer to that is to do the seal coat.
And part of the problem too, there was a time whenever we were floating bonds to do the milling and the paving. So
Yes.
Monroeville was borrowing money, which is not the best practice, and previous councils have made the commitment, and Mr. Little as well, to not do that. And to your credit too, and your staff's credit, to find these kind of other ways of doing things.
We've actually experimented with several different, we've done micro-servicing, we've done cape seals, we've done scrub seals. A lot of them, some of them, or most of them, are what we call cold mix asphalt. In our environment here, with the freeze thaws, snow plows, they just don't last. You're still going to use a hot mix type of asphalt. Actually, the department's wanting you to go to a warm mix asphalt now, is what they're trying to shift you to. You know, in the program that we put in place, we've had other communities, Murraysville, Plum, North Huntington, Peters Township, reach out to us to see how we rate our roads, how we do with our paving and our seal coating and our crack sealing, because I think we do a pretty good job at it. So with that being said, next month, you'll have the list of roads.
They're going to be done?
Yes, that's correct. And, Tim, it's $2 million.
Yes.
It's $2 million, correct? See, I knew that was going to happen.
What is currently budgeted, Tim?
I believe it's 1.5.
We argued about it because they told me it was $2 million. He doesn't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, the chart shows 1.5, so.
What's that?
The chart shows 1.5.
But if you go back to
1.5.
if you go back to the budget meetings, they said 2.
Well, we'll make sure we have all those numbers just correct before we do anything. How about that?
Sure.
We'll see what was approved. But great job, Mr. Hugus. Yeah, we're looking
Any
forward.
questions about that?
Council?
No.
No, excellent job.
Feel free to reach out if you do.
You saved a phone call tomorrow.
What's that?
I won't be calling you tomorrow. You answered my question.
I know, you'll call.
He's going to call you. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, he is.
Mr. Hugus, did you have one more item?
Yeah, he's passing.
Was this what? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Yugas. Good bridge.
Thank you, Paul.
You're still calling me. All right, so last month, you had asked about Haymaker Road. We talked about a little bit about the parking on the berm.
Yes, this is what the county reached out to us.
Yeah, because there was some concerns from the residents about parking on the berm since it's been paved, they're kind of bigger berms and cars are parking there more often. Obviously, Haymaker Road's a very lengthy road. We kind of tried to identify by virtue of the complaints of what we could really use as a study area. So what we've done is looked at actually from Northwestern Drive to Holy Cross Drive, just simply because that's where the worst geometry of the road is. And that's where it seems like the cars were parking and we got the complaints from. So it's from 2401 to 2457 Haymaker Road. Again, it's from Northwestern to Holy Cross. In here, there were study dates were February 17, 18, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 28, and March 1. There's various times from morning hours to afternoon hours to late afternoon to evening hours. Each one of those dates are in your packet. They're separated by an orange divider between the two dates. They're color-coded if you look. So you have a red section looking left and right, a blue section, a yellow, a green, a blue, yellow, and a purple. And they're highlighted in boxes that you can see the approximate time. And without going through this ad nauseum, basically what we found is between Holy Cross and Princeton, there seems to be most of the vehicles parking on the berm of the road. And that's what is generating the concern with people exiting Princeton, is those vehicles sitting on that berm. I contacted Chief Cole. He gave me there was only one accident within the last 5 years. It was a single vehicle accident that actually involved a motorcycle that did not negotiate the bend at Princeton Drive. So that was the only accident as it relates to this. From a pure sight distance analysis, exiting those roads, the vehicles really didn't seem to be causing much of a sight distance problem, more than there's somewhat of a neighborhood disgruntlement because of people parking on the berms.
Do all of those homes have driveways?
Yes.
And multiple car driveways, right, correct? They're not.
They may be one car in width, but they're deep enough that you could park several cars in them.
So, Mr. Hugus, do you have, or your staff have a recommendation at this time, or is this for council to read through?
I think council should review it, and you could see, via the pictures where these vehicles are parking. Again, I don't see it as a pure sight distance problem. I don't see problems exiting the road, but there are cars that park on the berm of the road.
Okay. Council, any questions? Yeah, very good, Mr. Hugus, but I encourage you to check out the packet and even drive down the road. Mr. Stevenson?
Yeah, we had talked that the county's gonna be responsible for something if we do something
The
here.
county will establish the signs the police would have to enforce.
Yeah, basically, yeah, the county, they're the ones that do all of this, but they don't want to do it without talking to Monroeville
Correct.
first.
They want your
It's-
blessing to post the signs and where to post the signs. I do believe you still have to do it by ordinance, Bob. You'd have to pass an ordinance
Yeah.
establishing that no parking in a certain area.
But we would
Give
have
the
to
ordinance to the
install
county and then
and
they
pay
would
for it,
establish
is that
it.
right?
I'm sorry?
We would have to install and pay for it,
No, they would install the
Oh,
sign.
they'll install it.
and they'll pay for it.
Max Hebder.
Paul, when you use the term sight distance,
Yes.
how far is footage-wise is that? Is
It
there a
depends.
standard?
It depends, well, when you look at a sight distance chart, you're sitting in your car, which is, I think, you're at 4.5 feet, but then, You have to look at the geometry of the roadway and the speeds of the roadway.
All right. So there's a mathematical.
Yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't see that being a problem there, Joe.
I just clicked because in case I get asked.
Yep.
Mr. Hugus, thank you.
Sure.
Great
You're welcome.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Good job, Paul.
Thank you.
Ms. Rock,
I do have something to say this.
very good.
Dun, dun, dun.
Exactly.
Here we go.
Where's Cole?
Do not, don't call him.
All right, I did pass some papers out to you. And I'll tell you which one we're gonna talk about. But, the subject is outsourcing, accounts payable. And what that means, it's not that we're gonna take our whole accounts payable department and ship it out to someone else. It's kind of a trend, in the industry, to do this, and what you're doing, you're outsourcing the payments. We will still, our staff will still be making, looking at the invoices, making sure, that we're paying what they say they're paying. And it's a lot of paperwork. We process approximately up to 600 checks a month. There's some months that we'll have like 400, it depends on the year, or the month rather. I was first told about this about maybe 3-4 years ago by a colleague at Upper St. Clair. They've been using this program for approximately maybe 7 to 10 years, and it's they think it's really great. It helps out. What happens when the checks are written, we have all these invoices, and the staff has to go through and, match the invoices, put the stubs with the checks, and, and then stuff them in the envelope and mail them. What will happen is we will prepare a file, computer file, of what we expect to pay. We will upload that to the vendor's website, and they'll take care of mailing all those. So a question would be, why do you want to do that? The goal here is to move from paper checks to ACH and credit card payments. We currently get a rebate for when we use our credit cards. It's like a form of interest. This vendor will contact our vendors and, talk to them about the options that they have for them to forward the payments, which they still can do a paper check. They can do the credit card. Well, they call it a virtual card. It isn't exactly our credit card. And then they do the ACH. Now, one of the advantages of this is that we get those rebates. We'll get a greater rebate, which we'll refer to this little handout that I gave you, and I don't really have anything for Jared to put up. But the vendor analysis, the first one was from a company called CorePay, and our current payment mix is 100% checks. The post-implementation is to equal them out so that it's approximately, 30% each. If you look on the second page of that core pay one, when they break down this mix, and this is kind of hard to understand, so we're gonna, I'll take you to the bottom line rather quickly. But if you look at the little green highlight, our net rebate on an annual basis with this company would be $14,000. I don't know if I agree with their math, but they also have that they're taking off. We pay $6,000 a year to them. So, I really don't like the fact that we would be paying them, taking out of our rebate. The second company that we're talking about is called Paymerang, and I have some handouts there that kind of shows you how it goes. We use a single file for payments. We create a batch, we upload it to them. They make the payments, and the payment can be either the virtual card, ACH, or check. So it's a pretty simple process. Now, like I say, I don't know if I agree entirely with Corpay's math, because they were throwing some things in there. So I asked both of the representatives for an approximate cost to us. And that's where we have the fee comparison sheet that I gave you. In the bottom where it says estimate from Scott and estimate from Michael, Corpay is asking for $77,200, whereas Paymerang's asking for $3,500. So I do believe that Tim, Darlene, and I sat through a few presentations from both of these companies. I think both are good companies and could do the job very well. I'm recommending Paymerang for a couple reasons. They have a good product, and the cost clearly is one of the reasons. And they also have a relationship with AccuFund, so they should be able to work within our system a little bit better. One of the other advantages is it mitigates fraud risk. And you may be aware that we had attempted fraud with a check, presented to our bank. And since then, we've implemented what's called check positive pay, which means we review. We do a couple things. We upload the checks we're cutting to Huntington Bank, and then they match it with the checks that are presented. That way, when something's out of order, they'll notify us. Also, we look at them. There's an exception report that we have to look at every day. And I did, about a week ago, I saw another attempted fraudulent check coming through. So that would all be eliminated if you go through the more paperless type of payment for your vendors. So that's, Tim, do you have anything to add?
Well, I mean, yeah, basically, Josie, you covered the three highlights of going to this type of system. It's going to virtually pay for itself, at least that from the credit card rebates. And if the vendors are paying through credit card ACH, this is going to pay for itself. But it doesn't totally pay for itself. It's virtually just about going to pay for itself. The second thing, and the most important thing, is the fraud. They take on all the liability of the fraud, and the positive pay that we instituted about 6, 7, 8 months ago with Huntington Bank is good, but what Josie has to do every day is go through a file to see to make sure our checks are sequential. In fact, there was one day back, and I think it was September, Josie, you were off, and I went through and I caught one that wasn't sequential. So we've had about 3 or 4 checks that were fraudulent, and the positive pay has caught them. And the third point on this is that this will free up some time with respect to productivity with accounts payable. There's different items that have been languishing with respect to putting our assets in order, and the police department, Public Works being the 2 biggest cost centers. They buy equipment, and we have to put it onto our asset list, and that has been languishing. And Darlene has been trying to do that for years now to get it all up to date, and it's just impossible for her to do that. This hopefully will free up some time and that's just one item that somebody in accounts payable can do. So those are the 3 points why I would recommend moving ahead with it.
Well, my question is, how is it going to affect the current staff? Do you still need them, or are you going to get rid of them?
No,
What's going on?
as he said, we still need them. It's just that it'll free probably Darlene up to be more productive, because it takes a lot of time to stuff 600 checks in envelopes, and then they got to mail them. There's enough work in finance that, as Tim said, we can move forward with our fixed asset project, which.
So it's just going to change some of the duties of the people that are there?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So there's no interruption of service when you switch
No.
to this of any kind?
No, none at all, no.
Okay.
And they will.
Bob, I'm sorry, Josie, go ahead.
They will continue to start out issuing the checks just like we would, but in the process, they'll slowly convert our vendors over to, virtual payments.
Are we able to do that in-house? Pay our
No.
vendors with credit cards, pay our vendors,
What?
set up ACH transfers?
We could, but not as efficiently. It would be we would probably have to hire a person to do that, because it would involve obtaining ACH numbers from all our vendors, setting the ACHs up.
But we're like hiring a person to do that anyway, by going to this company, is that correct?
Correct.
So-
And we will earn money on this.
But it won't be
That-
a burden to internal staff.
Right. Typically, you'll earn money, not spend any money. So even though you have to pay a certain amount to them, the rebates and earnings that you get from going virtual will outweigh that.
But we get those same rebates if we set it up in-house, though. And we would get,
We could, but maybe not with the ACH.
okay. Are there other, like, nearby communities that you said Paymerang's one that you like or that you recommend? You know, if there's any, like,
No, not for Paymerang, but Upper St. Clair is using Core Pay.
but you like Paymerang, that's one.
I do. Actually, when I talked to him, he said he was very supportive of Paymerang, even though he said they started out years ago, but at the time it was called Invoice Pay. But they've changed, they've grew, and they're a much larger company, and I can't speak for him, but, as things change, his recommendation to me was he would probably go with Paymerang.
But AccuFund has worked with Paymerang?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Do we know any communities that are using that exact setup, AccuFund and Paymerang, or can we get
I do
Can we get
know-
some references by chance?
I will ask for references, yeah. I
See
don't
if other
know.
communities, how it's worked for them.
How long a contract is it?
I don't think it is a contract. Do you remember, Tim, if that was a contract? I don't think,
Well, I mean, there's probably, there is an agreement with it. I
There's a-
mean, they're not gonna, there'll be some kind of an agreement with it.
right, but I don't think there's any commitment.
I mean, most of the agreements that you have like that, it's usually a 60-day out or a 30-day, usually 60 days.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
Well, is staff still gonna do the invoices?
Yes.
And then?
We will
go
still
to-
do our process of, we have the invoices and it goes through the requisition process, and then it goes through accounts payable. That's all gonna be the same. The only thing that's gonna be different, instead of us printing checks, we'll upload a file to their location, and then they'll take care of paying everything. They'll take care of mailing it if there are, I mean, a lot of people probably will still want to stick with checks. And they mail the checks, but like I say, the idea is to get people to go more paperless.
So we're gonna put this money in their account where they could send checks from?
It's an account they set up for us, yes. But we fund it, it gets funded for that pay only. So if we give them $500,000 worth of checks, we also ACH 500,000 to them to cover that cost of the checks.
So it'll be monthly payments to them to send the checks.
Or we'll be funding our payables, we'll be funding our checks by sending that money. Then it's just like, they're just like a flow through. We send the money to them, they send the money to the vendors.
Josie, I think I know the answer to this question, but I have to ask, the implementation fee, conditionally waivers. Explain that.
Yeah, well, what he said was, if we implement within 2 months of signing the agreement, then there's no fee. But then the last time I talked to him, he said, for us, there wouldn't be a fee. He's
Okay.
decided to waive that fee for us.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And that was a one-time fee. On the core pay,
Core pay.
that's an annual fee of $6,000, which I don't recommend.
I got you. Thank you.
And this is monthly payments to them? The 3507?
No,
No,
yearly.
a year?
no,
If it
that's
would-
it. I'm sorry, the 3507 is, it's not 3507 a month, that's our annual cost. So it'd be broken down based upon the types of, whether they're doing checks, or ACH or credit card. We can get you more information. This information I gave you was just excerpts from what they gave to us when we sat through their demonstrations. So that's,
Okay.
Okay.
Good job.
okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
We're
Thanks,
good.
Josie.
Thanks.
Council, moving over to reports. Mr. Hizzy, anything this evening?
I have none.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, COVID's still out there. 1/3 of the population have not got vaccinated. COVID is still there, as evidenced by our manager Skyping to us. Please talk to your doctors, science is out there. Think about it, get a shot if you can. That's all I have, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Wolfram?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams?
Yeah, I'd like to give my sympathy to the Pascusa family. I hope I said that right. And just put it out there, what a good job the police department, all who involved, county, Penn Hills, and Monroeville for sure. Quick arrest that was made for a senseless killing. My sympathy again.
Mr. Williams?
I agree with my friend, that the police department done a great job, and that's why we don't want to defund them. They do a great job for us. The other thing is, the Times Express article, February 17, 2022, Rotary offering scholarship from the Bob Williams Scholarship Program. I just want the public to know that is not Councilman Bob Williams. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Very, very good, Mr. Williams. Mr. Biondo?
Yeah, I would just echo what Mike and Bob said about this Pacusa situation. Nice job, Monroeville Police, County Police, everyone involved. Also, Tim, very nice sitting next to you today. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it again sometime. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Biondo. And yes, I agree with my colleagues here. Condolences to the Spaguza family and to law enforcement in the region. Condolences to the Barley family as well. And on a lighter note, definitely congratulations to Officer Kandrak and Joanne Morris on their retirement for many years of service to Monroeville in the police department and in the rec department. So with that, I'd like to seek a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you and good night.